Welcome to the Meltdown Podcast. I'm joined today by Tuvia Book. He has a brand new book coming out, Heroes of Palmar, How One IDF Unit Revolutionized Combat Medicine in Gaza. It's available for pre-purchase on the Geffen Publishers site. It's out next week. Tuvia,
Yes.
thanks for joining again.
Pleasure, anytime.
And Miles on the book.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. Of course, we talked about this before, but you were involved in saving Idana Mehdi and many other unbelievable stories. So it's exciting for the world to see it. I reached out to you because I think we were both kind of shocked by Benjamin Netanyahu's comments yesterday addressed toward former President Joe Biden, in which he essentially accused Joe Biden of getting IDF soldiers killed with an arms embargo during the beginning of the war. Before I take a crack at it, your thoughts?
Okay. So I agree with you. I listened to your podcast, and I'm not going to get political at all. I'm just going to stick with purely the facts themselves. And the facts are, when the army called up a massive amount of reserves, estimates range around 350,000 reserves were basically called up, or people like me who volunteered to go back into the military, even though I was way above the age. And there was quite simply not enough equipment. It's that simple. The equipment that was provided was antiquated. If it wasn't so sad, it might be funny, but the helmet I was issued with, when I looked inside, it actually said date of issue 1973. That means it was 50 years old, literally from the Yom Kippur War. It should have been in a museum as an antique, and for sure was not bulletproof. That's just the helmet. The webbing we were given was from all sorts. We looked at the Keystone cards. We had no ceramic plates, and the flak jackets, which would not stop flak, were still in the original plastic from the Vietnam era with instructions.
And you're talking about on October 7th itself, or just after.
Medical unit about to go into Gaza to extract wounded soldiers. Nothing we had was bulletproof. Nothing.
And so I just want to add on that, though, is that we're not even discussing October 7th itself, right? There's so many issues that existed. There's a story of Guy Bazak. He was killed with a bullet to the chest. Mm-hmm. He did not have plates. His plates were taken away from him just weeks before October 7th. I know of dozens of other stories myself that have similar themes, okay? So as you're describing showing up after, I'm talking about people that were supposed to be on the front lines on October 7th.
We were there. My unit was on the 7th. I was there a couple of days later because I came back to the military, even though I hadn't served for 17 years. I came back in. It took me a while to clear all the paperwork and the bureaucracy. So I actually arrived in my unit on the 10th of October, 3 days later. But all the equipment they've been given and the equipment of people like me who was arriving a couple of days later was beyond substandard. So
I think so you said it's not political,
nothing
and
to do with Biden. Had nothing to do with it. Had to do with the fact that A, they were not prepared to have so many people being drafted at the same time, and B, they were not prepared. Full stop. They did not have the relevant, adequate, up-to-date equipment for infantry combat soldiers or armored corps.
So I agree with you, and my principal objection to what Prime Minister Netanyahu said yesterday is simply that there were so many failures in the Israeli establishment. Correct. Whether that's munition levels, the lack of bulletproof vehicles, the inability to get proper equipment. I'm talking about regular conscription soldiers and basic safety protocols to make sure people had medical equipment, to make sure that that people had tourniquets, right? This is nothing to do with any other country. Israel is a sovereign country. Yes. While Israel slept. Yes. So, it's I had Yaakov Katz on it, and I agree with many things there, but I have other criticisms that actually go well beyond that. But the heart of the issue to me, as someone who has been following this closely and trying to do what I can to help, is just that there are so many issues that go well beyond what Israel should expect or what Israel, quote unquote, deserves from an ally. And Israel has to look within and say, how did this happen? And how do we fix these problems? And I haven't seen any sort of movement to actually address those problems within Israel in a transparent way or in such a brazen way as to say there's essentially blood on the hands of President Biden. That's what bothered me.
Okay, so basically, there's two things here. There's a historical fact. Around the year 2000, when Ehud Barak was the prime minister, Israel was pretty self-sufficient from a military point of view, but he farmed a lot of the stuff out with the collapse of the Lavi project. A lot of our arms-making ability was farmed out to the United States, and now, way too late, many decades later, we're trying to scramble and go back to producing our own arms and our own weapons and our own equipment. However, the real issue here is that is the discrepancy between the statements and the facts. So the IDF was saying every soldier was issued with every piece of equipment that they need.
Right.
You can't argue with that. Yes, I did get a helmet, and everyone got a helmet, everyone got a flak jacket, everyone got webbing. However, the level of equipment we were given was so substandard, it was almost a crime from that point of view. And I'm sure many deaths, not just a few that you mentioned, resulted because of that. Then they said we don't need any donations. To this date, from what I know, not just the $1 million that I raised for my unit, from what I understand, over $1 billion was raised for equipment by generous Jewish brothers and sisters and concerned folk in the diaspora, including evangelical Christians. $1 billion of equipment. Now, that was raised that was needed. That wasn't just raised for the sake of raising. It was raised for equipment that was needed for soldiers going into danger.
And I'll just add that, again, you can say that there's problems and people had to donate. I mean, people gave up a lot of time and had the privilege of being able to help. That's great. I'm not even objecting to saying, hey, there were big mistakes. Now we need to fix it. What I object to personally is the people like Amit Segal who are coming out there as if now, okay, the Biden administration apologize. You're terrible. This policy. Again, I don't even like the Biden administration policies. I'm saying if you want to have accountability and a public reckoning about who's responsible for all of the death and who's responsible for the destruction and who's responsible, then let's have the public reckoning. Don't have this fake public reckoning where you're just going after an ally country
Right.
or a
That
foreign.
will,
Right?
that will only ever happen with a full, neutral commission of inquiry, and that won't happen under the current administration in Israel. It just won't happen.
Right. But that's to me the fundamental challenge. And
It's the
again, I'm not even
neutral,
saying
you can't be hand-selected by the administration, which they're trying to fob
right.
off the Israeli
Right.
public. We'll select the people who are going to do this commission inquiry. That's not the way it works. It has to be just like the Yom Kippur Commission, where it was neutral, non-political, apolitical, and that's what Israel needs, and it won't get it as long as this coalition's in
And
power.
and I'll share a story here I had at the Israel American Coalition conference. Very late at night, I saw Daniel Hagari, the former spokesperson who infamously said that nothing was missing. And I went up to him and I said, I just have one question for you. And he says, just one question? I said, yeah. I said, on October 9th, 2023, when you said everyone had everything they need, and then we got into a huge fight back and forth because he kept saying, I didn't say everything was perfect. I just said that we had it. I said, I wasn't even trying to get to that. I was trying to understand who told you that information, right? I'm not even trying to blame you. I'm not trying to say that Hagari did something uniquely evil. I just said, can you just tell me who gave you the information? And true to a spokesperson, he didn't tell me, but I have a hint at some of the people that were involved. But it's just fascinating to me because I'm sitting here saying you have documented, like you were saying, fake news that was being promoted. And I want to know what's going on and what did that contribute to challenges in the field, right? We're going from drones to 360-degree cameras to helmets to vests to night vision goggles to boots to fireproof uniforms to tents, food.
Yes,
I mean,
I raised
so
money
how
for
how is it uniquely Joe Biden's fault? It's just crazy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Here's my show and tell. I'm going to show you now. This is an enlarged picture of the front of my book, Heroes of Palmar. And you can see me standing over here. Every single thing you see in this photograph, every single thing was donated, with the exception of the gun itself. And even the gun itself was provided by the United States of America by Colt Industries in Hartford, Connecticut. The webbing, the helmet, the dust goggles, the torch on my head, the flashlight on my head, the gloves, the uniform, the even the gun strap, the
Ballistic goggles, ballistic glasses.
every single thing. If I was standing with what I actually had, I'd be standing in a t-shirt and shorts. Every single piece of equipment is donated. So you're 100% right. Every single piece.
And
Even
it's
the
crazy because, but I'm
even the
so
boots we
concerned.
wore were donated by an amazing organization called Sold
Boots
Boots for
for
Sold.
Israel. Boots
Boots
for
for
Israel. Yeah.
Israel.
But
Even our boots were donated. Yeah.
I'm just so troubled by the fact that this
And
is the
even though
level
that
of
we weren't
Congress.
lone
Yeah.
soldiers, we got stuff from the Michael Levine Lone Soldier base because we just needed the equipment. We had a couple of lone soldiers in our unit, but everyone was equipped by them. An organization called Save for Charles Hart gave us our schluckerin for the water. The New Jersey Metro West Federation provided us with winter clothes, with undergarments and overgarments, literally from Metro West New Jersey. My entire unit was provided by generous brothers and sisters from Chutzlawitz, to such an extent that my nickname in the unit was Santa Claus. They're like, Tuvia, what are we getting this week? And I always thought it was going to be like Sabatuvia or Tuvia the Milkman. Instead, they call me Santa Claus because I have the connection with very generous diaspora Jews. It had nothing to do with Biden, nothing to do with the American administration. It had to do with the fact that the army was not prepared. And one of the foundational reasons was the budget was not allocated to get adequate equipment. It was allocated to people who don't serve in the army, and many in the ultra-Orthodox community to keep them in the coalition. But for people serving in the army, there was not budget for adequate equipment. It's that simple.
I'll just add that in our investigation that we did, and I can't even tell you how many hours and days and weeks and months trying to figure this out. There's also a lack of education. So when you have people that were put into logistics, and then if they're trying to coordinate with people that were in charge of safety, there was a disconnect because you might say, hey, a helmet from 1978 doesn't work. But then when it gets to logistics, they say, well, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have anything. And they don't understand the actual dire circumstance that a helmet from 1977 or 1978 poses from a safety perspective, not a comfort perspective. And that was a major disconnect. And that has to be investigated. But if now the precedent is that Joe Biden has essentially blood on his hands because of an arms embargo, then, like I said yesterday, was there an arms embargo?
No, there
Or an
wasn't. There was one.
was
There
was
was
there? No,
one.
I'm saying,
One.
was there an equipment embargo from the Ministry of Defense to the soldiers? Was there an equipment embargo from the Knesset to the?
There was this, I'll tell you what it's referring to. There was when we were waiting outside Rafiach, which for some reason they call Rafah in English. There was a delay in sending soldiers in because there were certain armaments were delayed. It had nothing to do with the equipment of the soldiers. It was to do with
I'm being
airport.
I'm being facetious because I'm saying
Mhm.
no. But even so, right? Even if you want to blame that on Biden, did Israel not prepare? Did Israel not think, okay, what if, God forbid, we have to go into a 2-month incursion into Gaza? What are the global inventory levels of munitions? Maybe we have to go ahead on something. Why was Israel sending any sort of aid to Ukraine? Why was Israel not stockpiling bullets? What is going on? I just don't understand how a sovereign country then turns around and takes a cheap shot at the former president, who I don't support the policy. When they're talking about that shipment or 2 shipments of stuff that was delayed, I fully reject that. I think it was a massive mistake from the Biden administration. But to go as far as to say this is what caused the death of soldiers when you're sending them in with equipment from 1973, 1977 is outrageous.
It's basically the word in English is called deflection. That's what's going on here.
Okay, so I appreciate you taking the time here just to get your thoughts and see that there, because again, it's one of these things where unless you're really in it, perhaps people don't see it. But if you go to any synagogue in America and you say, have you been solicited to help people in Israel because there's a shortage? Every single person is going to tell you yes. This is not a secret. So my challenge is just, how do we actually communicate a genuine need for an investigation into this issue without it becoming some sort of bigger political problem?
2 things about that. There will be an investigation, but only after the current coalition is no longer in power, and that might happen in October. It might not happen, but as long as the current incumbent is the prime minister, because Israel unfortunately, does not have term limits like the United States, there will not be a neutral commission of inquiry. It's just not going to happen because That's just the reality. So maybe in October there will be. Second of all, again, I know it's a bit of a personal plug, but I didn't want to say that. Sometimes you can get upset, especially in the diaspora, about the level of corruption on the political sense. But I did want to emphasize with my book over here, what I'm focusing on here is the people. The people are amazing, both those who serve and those who give the equipment from our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And that should give us some hope. An honest politician is a bit of an oxymoron, as we all know. However, it's the people of Israel that really give us hope and for their future.
I
And
will
that
say that one. I will
finish
say that the.
on a positive note because
I'll
we
say
are
this.
brothers
I'm
and
so
sisters.
no, but I am so blessed to have met so many, tens of thousands of people through the course of everything since October 7th, ranging from soldiers to bereaved families to former hostages across the entire spectrum. Politics aside, really doesn't even make a difference. And I agree with you. The people are amazing, and you really do see that spirit of the Jewish people. And most people that are contributing or were able to help, their attitude was, Baruch Hashem, we're able to help because this is amazing that the Jewish people have a state and you're able to help. That's amazing. So again, it's not coming from a negative, angry perspective. I approach it from the sense that everyone's united. It was an amazing moment of unity. And how do we ensure that such a moment is not needed again in such drastic
Listen,
conditions? I think
at the
that's the
end of the
focus.
day, I have referenced the Argonaut Committee, which was the post-Yom Kippur Commission of Inquiry, and they basically allocated blame right across the spectrum, from the chief of staff to heads of intelligence. But interestingly enough, they said the prime minister at the time, Golda Meir, they did not hold her accountable, even though she was the prime minister. And her response was, even though you didn't personally hold me accountable, I am the prime minister and I need to resign. It was just, for her, it was just a point of honor, because that's where the buck stopped. Just like Captain Smith probably could have gone on a lifeboat of the Titanic, but he said, I'm the captain of the ship. I need to go down with it. And that's what's missing here. The word is missing is honor, or kavod. At the end of the day, every person in the military who was in a position of leadership or power at the time has left the military. Heads of intelligence, the former chief of staff, etc., etc., etc. The only person who's still sitting in a position of major power from that 7th of October is the prime minister himself, and he refuses to take accountability. And part of what he does is deflect. It was Biden's fault. It was the underlings' fault. I wasn't told. I this, I that. The point is, we've got to stand up like Golda Meir did and say, the buck stops at me. I'm the prime minister, and I need to take the responsibility. And that hasn't happened, and it won't happen. So don't hold your breath.
Well, God willing, we'll be able to come together to actually figure out how to keep making sure Israel is strong. And I think that's something to strive for. And I think it's actually attainable, which is why having conversations like this is important so people can actually understand the issues and understand why some people are upset. It's not that they're leftists or
No,
extreme right or
we have
something. It's
everybody in our
simply
unit. We have left, right,
100%. Exactly.
secular.
Exactly.
We do live in an age of miracles and wonders, and it's important to remember that. It's the people. It says in the Tanakh, "Tivnuni migdash v'shachanti b'tochaim." If you build me a temple, I'll dwell in them. And them is the people. So we do have a wondrous people, a wondrous army, and we do live in an age of miracles and wonders. We need to keep focus on that as well.
Dr. Tuvi Book, thank you so much and good luck with the new book. Everyone check it out, Geffen Publishing. It is called Heroes of Palmar, How One IDF Unit Revolutionized Combat Medicine in Gaza. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye for now.